The U.S. has set a record, a 30% surge in fatalities, with California reaching nearly 45%. One major problem, a powerful opioid now flooding the market.
The worst year.
The worst year
of my life.
The pandemic has been especially brutal to this family in Contra Costa County. Their son and brother, 26-year-old Tom Terry, died from an accidental opioid overdose.
He won't be able to be there for any future events, my daughter's birthdays. He was an amazing uncle.
Facing job losses, Tom grew anxious. From an unknown source, he bought what he thought was an anti-anxiety drug, but the pill was actually packed with fentanyl.
It was 3 times a lethal dose that would kill a person.
Fentanyl is flooding the market in powder and in counterfeit pills.
Overdoses, which were already increasing hugely over the last few years, increased even more with the corona pandemic.
Dr. Alex Kral surveys drug users. He says during the pandemic, more overdoses led to death for a big reason, the sheltering in place.
If people are socially isolating by themselves, they're using drugs by themselves, so if they do overdose, no one can save them.
Another problem, difficulty accessing care. Deborah Colleen's son, Kent, is struggling with an opioid addiction. She said the Bay Area lockdown locked her son out of effective treatment.
There was no hope. There was no help.
We really want to see deaths start to come down. We have to flip it so that the treatment is much easier for people to obtain.
Dr. Andrew Kolodny says the U.S. needs an Operation Warp Speed, not just for COVID, but for opioid addiction. The drug epidemic began more than 25 years ago, and there's still no good data on the newly addicted or how to expand therapy.
That needs to change if we're going to better address the opioid addiction epidemic.
While there's an outpouring of support for those ill with COVID, that's not always the case with the addicted. The stigma may impede an effective national response to the problem.
We really should understand that they're suffering from a preventable, treatable condition.
The pandemic has created yet one more problem, a delay in justice.
We cannot continue not to try to solve the opioid problem. It's a matter of life and death.
Attorney Louise Rennie is representing several California jurisdictions in a landmark federal case filed against opioid manufacturers and distributors. The pandemic slowed down settlement talks.
And the sooner we get the job done, the better. Let's use the money for drug abatement. Let's use it to get people better if we can, and try to get it so that people aren't dying on the streets every day.
In the meantime, Tom's family wants others to know this tragedy can happen to anyone.
It doesn't discriminate. It could be anybody.
Well, the legal fights are beginning to heat up again. Tens of billions of dollars are at stake, with thousands of plaintiffs, including many cities and counties here in the Bay Area.